I wanna show you something.
Kalau belum bisa dapat kan lumayan banget.
This is what people see when I post about living abroad, especially for people who live in my home country. 3 months after I moved abroad, I sat on the floor of my apartment at 2 a.m. and I didn't know who to call because everyone back home was asleep and everyone here didn't know me yet. If you have ever felt completely alone, even when you were surrounded by a whole new country, this video is right for you. Let me take you back to the beginning. When I decided to move abroad, I was so excited, honestly. I was like obsessed with the idea, new city, new culture, new version of me. I had watched like 100 YouTube videos of people living their best life abroad, overseas, and I thought, that's going to be me. And at first, it kind of was. The first few weeks were electric. Everything felt new and shiny. The food was different. The streets were unfamiliar for me, in the best way, in a good way anyway. Even going to the grocery stores felt like an adventure. But then, the novelty started to fade, and I realized something nobody in those YouTube videos ever really talk about this. Living abroad is not a vacation, it is just life, except you're doing it completely alone. Back home, I had my people, my family, my friends, my routines, the coffee shop I went to every Saturday, the friend who randomly texts me to grab lunch together. Those little things I never thought about were my mental health system, and I had left all of it behind. 2 months in, I started feeling it. I didn't even have a word for it at first. It wasn't sadness, exactly. It was more like emptiness. I will go through my whole day, go to work, buy food, come home, and realize I had not had a single real conversations. Not one. I will open Instagram and see my friends back home laughing at the dinner I was not at. And I will feel this guilt because I chose this. I was the one who left, so how could I complain, right? That's the thing about loneliness abroad that makes it so hard to talk about. You feel like you don't have the right to struggle because from the outside your life looks amazing, especially on your Instagram story, right? I started avoiding video calls with my family because every time I hang up, I felt worse. That 5 seconds silence after you say goodbye and the screen goes blank. That was the loneliness moment of my week back then. I stopped going out on weekends. I told myself I was saving money or I was tired. But the truth was, going out alone felt harder than staying in alone. At least on my apartment, nobody could see that I had no one to go with. And then one day, I was sitting in a park, beautiful park, by the way, the kind you will see on postcard, and I just started crying out of nowhere. And I thought, what is wrong with me? Have everything I wanted. Why am I like this? That was my lowest point, and it was also the moment things started to change. I made one decision that day, and it felt small, but it wasn't. I stopped pretending I was okay. I called my best friend back home and I said, honestly, for the first time, I'm really struggling here. Not I'm a little homesick. No, it's just like an adjustment. I said, I'm struggling and I need you to know that. And my friend said something I will never forget. She said, I wonder, but I didn't want to say anything because your post looks so good. Yes, it was. And that hit me. We are all performing for each other and it's making us all lonelier. From that moment, I gave myself permissions to stop performing, and that permissions, it changed everything. So I wanna share with you guys the things that actually helped me. Not the generic stuff you read on travel blogs, but this is the real things. Alright guys, so this is the tip number 1. Name what you are actually feeling. The first thing I did was stop calling it homesickness because I wasn't just missing home, I was grieving. I had lost my entire support system overnight, and grief is allowed to be hard. When you name what you are actually feeling, it stops having power over you. Try this. Instead of saying, I feel off today, say specifically, I feel lonely because I have not had a meaningful conversation in 4 days. That specific is the beginning of fixing. Tips number 2, build micro connections first. Everyone says just put yourself out there and make friends. Great advice, super easy, thanks. And here is what actually worked for me, and it's real. I stopped trying to make friends and I started trying to make moments, just small human connections. The barista at the coffee shop when I went to every morning, I started learning her name, asking one question each visit. The guy at the gym who always used the machine next to mine. I was just like nodded and said, good workout, that's it. These micro connections are underrated actually, right? They remind your nervous system that you exist in a community even when deep friendships have not formed yet. And sometimes they grow into something more. Guys, you can actually just try this. And this is the tips number 3. Schedule your social life like it is a meeting. When I was home, socializing happened naturally. Abroad, nothing happens naturally. You have to engineer it. So I literally started putting in my calendar every week. One social commitment, just one. It could be a language exchange meetup, a free walking tour, a coffee with a coworker I barely knew. I didn't matter what it was. What mattered was that it was scheduled. Because when you are lonely and your energy is low, you will always talk yourself out of going. But if it is in the calendar, you go, and 9 times out of 10, it was glad I did it. And this is the tip number 4. Protect your connections back home, but set healthy. I used to feel guilty for staying so close to people back home, like it meant I was not really committing to my new life. That's nonsense, because your relationships back home are not a crutch, they are foundations. Keep them. Schedule regular calls, not just when you are struggling, also when you are fine. Call them. When something funny happens, when you want to share a win. But there is the boundary part. Don't only reach out when you are lonely and desperate, because then the call becomes about relief, not connections, and that pattern will exhaust both of you. Both of you and your bestie, your family, or your friendship back in your home country. This is the tips number 5. Take your mental health seriously, even when you're abroad. So, this one is the most important and the one I resisted the longest. At about the 4 months mark I'm here, I started seeing a therapist online. And I want to be honest, I almost didn't, because I thought, is it really that serious? I'm not depressed, I'm just adjusting, right? At the beginning when you're abroad. But here's the thing I learned. You don't need to be in crisis to deserve support. You are allowed to get help just because life is hard. There are no platforms specifically for expats, therapists who understand what it means to be far from home. It navigates identity to feel like you are between two worlds. If you are struggling, please look into it. I will mention some resources in the descriptions, okay? And beyond therapy, sleep, movement, sunlight, I know, you have heard this before. What I'm telling you, in my worst month, I stopped exercising. I started sleeping at random hours and barely went outside. And it made everything darker. And when I fixed those basics, the emotional weight got lighter, not gone, lighter. That matters. And this is the tips number 6. Create a home in your new place. One thing nobody tells you, your brain needs to feel like it belongs somewhere physical. if you are living out of a suitcase mentality, even if you have been there 6 months, your nervous system stays in temporary mode. And temporary feels unsafe. So I purchased a plan. I put up one photo. I found a coffee shop that became my coffee shop. I created tiny anchors in my new city, and slowly it started feeling less like a place I was visiting and more like a place I live. This is actually worse for me, guys. Trust. Guys, I want to be clear about something. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it all got magically better and now I love every single day of living abroad. That will be a lie, to be honest. And you deserve better than that, guys. What I can tell you is this. I learned something about myself in those hard moments that I never would have learned if everything had gone smoothly. I learned that I am more resilient than I thought. I learned that asking for help is not a weakness. It might actually be the bravest thing you can do, and I learned that loneliness, as awful as it feels, is not permanent. It is a phase, and it passes. Like living abroad changed me, not just because of the place I have seen on experience I have had, but because it forced me to figure out who I am when I have no one around to reflect that back to me. Guys, if you are in that hard phase right now, I see you, and it doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It means you are doing one of the hardest things a person can do, and you are still here, still going. That matters more than you know. Alright guys, if this video resonated with you, I would really love to hear your story in the comments. Whether you are abroad right now, thinking about moving, or you have been through this yourself before, tell me guys, okay? Because this channel is about being honest, and the comment section is part of that conversations. If you found this helpful, share it with someone who might need it, okay? You might not know who is silently going through this in your circle. And if you want more honest stories and practical advice about building a real life abroad, please subscribe, okay? I'm gonna upload new video every week. Alright guys, I will see you there, and thank you so much guys for clicking and watching this video. Bye!